face.
Thank you, Zoom. Let's see, I can go live on Facebook.
So there's a lot of new resources here, but we're going to dive into high level overview. What is KW Cares and how do we share the story of KW Cares? Well, you know, as real estate professionals, we are in an environment that doesn't have the same safety net as lots of W-2 careers, right? We didn't sign up for a 401k with this. Health insurance and other benefits are going to be on our own. So we don't have the same safety net as a lot of W-2 type employers that may provide benefits for financial distress inside of your life, right? So many years ago, there was obviously acknowledgement that there was a need to change that inside of our world. And so KW Cares was born. KW Cares is the nonprofit arm of Keller Williams Realty International. It's our very own 5013C, which means this is an actual nonprofit. And when KW Cares collects a donation, in most cases, literally every penny of that donation goes back to those who are in need. The salaries and the operating budget for KW Cares are part of the KWRI budget, right? So they're not taking operating costs out of those donations. It's the operation of this foundation is covered through KWRI. So what is it? KW Cares provides financial grant assistance for associates and their families who have experienced a financial hardship due to a catastrophic life event. So that life event could be anything from the from illness or the loss of a loved one. It could be something that impacts your living situation, right? A house fire or some other sort of natural disaster that impacts your living situation. There's all different types of financial hardship that would qualify for a KW Cares grant. I said this is for associates and their family members. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the associate who's experienced this loss. It could be someone who's related to this associate, either their spouse or children. Also, their parents and siblings are eligible for this grant, even if the associate is not a dependent of said parents or siblings, right? That grant assistance can go out. You do have to have a little bit of tenure with Keller Williams. You do have to have been an associate for at least 6 months or longer to be eligible for the grant assistance program. And so the grants that KW Cares offers. Annually, KW Cares grants back approximately $5 million to our associates who are in need. Now that can go up and down depending on the year. All of these monies are collected because of charitable contributions. And there are many ways that you can contribute to KW Cares. All of these are tax deductible donations, right? So you can contribute a lump sum. Oftentimes at our large events, there's opportunities to contribute as well. So if you think of family reunion or mega camp or masterminds or something like that, typically there's some sort of cultural event and the opportunity to make a donation to KW Cares in such event. You'll also find that in other KW events like BOLD or certain larger scale classes and regional trainings, there's opportunities to donate to KW Cares. The most common way that people make their donation to KW Cares is through their commissions at closing. They can create an automatic deduction from their commission check to go to KW Cares. All of the work's done on the DA, everything's spelled out on the commission's request, and that donation will be sent via us to KW Cares on their behalf, and it's all tracked per associate. So actually at the end of the year, each associate will get their own tax receipt for their combined donations to KW Cares. All of that's tracked through KW Cares, and it can be found in your associate reports that are on KW Connect. So go to KW Connect, you'll hit reports, and then there's a KW Cares report, and that will actually show you your history of contributions to KW Cares. So those are the most common ways that KW Cares is funded. Obviously, there's an ongoing need for these types of funds. The next way that KW Cares is funded is through actual fundraising efforts. Typically, these center around disaster relief situations. There's an entire arm of KW Cares that's dedicated to disaster relief. In fact, I'll pull out my little truck here. We have our very own mini fleet of trucks. We have, of course, this is quite the mini fleet of trucks, but KW Cares actually has our own semis and warehouses full of disaster response equipment, so that we can become instrumental as first responders in natural disaster situations. Think floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, wildfires, right? Because we are a privately owned and operated 501(c), and we don't have the same red tape to go through as, say, larger organizations like the Red Cross. We can actually get on site faster than some of those organizations to address the needs of associates and their communities. Okay, so that's an important distinction when we talk about disaster relief. We'll typically start at the market center level. We're going to reach out to the associates inside of the market center, see what kind of aid is necessary, and then work through the community that those associates serve as well. Now, that's not always the case, because we have sent our KW Cares disaster response teams to parts of the country that actually don't get served by Keller Williams, right? A few years ago, there was some substantial flooding in West Virginia. We had a fully stocked warehouse and fully stocked trucks, and we were able to serve them, even though we didn't have market centers in West Virginia servicing that population. So the disaster relief fund runs separately. Donations that go to the disaster relief fund during those fundraising efforts are earmarked specifically for disaster relief. So some of you may remember Hurricane Harvey. Hurricane Harvey was an especially devastating weather event, right? And so our disaster response team was out in force, and our fundraising efforts were incredible. We raised, I don't even know how many, in the millions of dollar ranges from our associates to help the victims of Hurricane Harvey. And it happened to correspond with our annual mega camp event. And so, doing the right thing, literally a week before the event, they scrapped the entire the entire agenda for the mega camp event, and used the same transport buses that would have been taking people to and from the convention center to actually take them to and from disaster relief spots, so that there were not just dollars on the ground, but boots on the ground, as several thousand KW associates still took their trip to Texas to help the cleanup efforts from Hurricane Harvey. So those are some of the ways that KW Cares is here to help create a safety net for our associates. I'd encourage anybody who feels like they may have a need or they have a family member who may have a need to reach out to myself or Jake or Katie to get the ball rolling on what that looks like. Because the KW Cares organization is a formally recognized 501(c)(3), there is a qualification process for the grant. Right. It's not as easy as I have a need, write me a check. You do have to demonstrate that need and provide supporting documentation and so on and so forth. On the local level at our market center, whenever a grant is issued, it's very, very important that we're also helping to support that associate through our own local fundraising efforts. And so we're responsible for at least 10% of whatever the grant is issued being provided through local fundraising efforts. So let's say somebody got a grant for $40,000 to cover the cost of some medical treatment. Right, then the local market center would be responsible for at least 10% or $4,000 of that cost. But then there are oftentimes costs that the grant won't cover, right? Because it's kind of rigid. You have to color inside of the lines. So sometimes the cost of things like food or future treatments, right, may not be covered or anticipated in the grant. It can only cover things that have actually already happened. So that's where the local market center efforts need to partner with Keller Williams Cares. We do have our own Keller Williams Park Meadows Cares Heart Fund. This is a fund that we hold aside that's been created by contributions from associates inside of the market center. And we are coming right up on 9 o'clock. So I'll make this brief. You can contribute to our market center Heart Fund the very same way. As we get back in person, we'll have more opportunities to contribute in person at team meetings and office events. You can also make a contribution to that fund at any time, and you can make an automatic deduction at closing to that fund. And that's how the majority of it is funded. Agents will at closing make a contribution to that fund. Notice I'm using the word contribution, not donation. Our market center Heart Fund is not a recognized 501(c)(3). So these are non-charitable, non-tax contributions, right? So you won't get a donation receipt from us at the end of the year from donating into our Heart Fund. However, do know that it's important that we have those funds available to help service our associates. We're able to cut through a lot of red tape. Over the years, we've done everything from helping an associate keep a roof over their head to helping the cost of insurance premiums and co-pays for medical treatments. We've even paid office bills and sent some of our agents on training that would help to increase or impact their business. So that Heart Fund is very important. We have a lot more flexibility with how we can spend that on the local level. And I encourage everybody to be able to contribute to either one of those. Next time we get together to talk about KW Cares, we'll look a little bit deeper at the website and some of the resources and some of the different ways that us as the market center leadership and as agents can dive in and really partner with KW Cares. So that's what I got. You guys have questions?